Hey y'all, this is going to be the first in a series of color mixing videos, and since it's the first, I thought that it would be totally logical for us to start with the primary colors, the true primary colors. Now, the only thing that I have the true primary colors in, the only medium, is actually inks. So here they are. I've got a set of Amsterdam inks in the true, and we're talking, I don't know the technical term for it, but what it is primary red, primary magenta, primary cyan, and primary yellow. Those are the true primary colors. So I'll be using them. You can get such a wide range of colors from those. We're not going to go anywhere near the range you can get today, but we'll have a little demo. And I've also got black and white. So you use this for tones and shades of your colors. Okay, so the first thing we should do, I've already put some out on my palette. I've got a wet palette over here. I don't know if you can see the paints. I think you can't. Let's see. Turn it. You can see some of them. Okay, so I've got my primary magenta, which is very red, not what you think of as magenta. Primary cyan, which looks very much like an ultramarine blue, and my primary yellow, which is probably closest to what you might think of as maybe a lemon yellow or Hansa yellow light, maybe a cad yellow light, not quite sure on that. Okay, so let's start with the pure red. And on our paper, the pure red, or magenta, I'm going to keep saying that, magenta looks like this. So that's your pure primary magenta color. And then primary yellow. This is all pretty basic. We all know what red, yellow, and blue looks like. So this is primary yellow. Because their inks, they are a little bit thin, but these have pretty good coverage. And our primary cyan, which is the name for the blue color. Is here. So those are our primary colors. And these sorts of colors are the things that you see in children's. I'm going to put a little bit more of the magenta down because it's just quite thin. I'm using some sketching paper. Normally I'd do this on tracing paper so that I had transparent background, but I wanted you to be able to see the colors against the white very, very clearly. So these are the sort of colors that you would see in children's furniture and toys and things like that because they're bright and they pop and they really get your attention, but it's not exactly subtle. So what you can do with your colors, obviously, is you can create tones of those colors. So if I take a little bit of the red, and again I've done it again, magenta, and just mix it with a tiny bit of white, we start seeing the pure tones of this primary color come out. That's a beautiful pink. I'll take a little bit more white. We can get paler. It's a very strong color, the magenta, so it does take quite a bit of white to balance it. It's prettiest pink coming up. Let's see how pale I can make it. You can get quite pale. Beautiful pink. And you can, of course, also, let me get my black out. I forgot to put it out on the palette. Add tiny amounts of black to deepen your colors. So I'll take some of that red and put it over here. Get myself another brush. I'm trying to keep things as pure as I can. Now it doesn't take much black, so I've just used way too much there. Way too much. Way too much. I need more cyan. Magenta. I really do know these colors. I just can't get my mouth to say the right thing. Okay, so it doesn't take much black to produce the deeper tones. And look at that gorgeous, gorgeous deep tone of magenta. That's beautiful. I hope that's coming up on the camera. So if you're looking for black in your work, you might not want to use pure black, but consider taking one of the primary tones and darkening it with black. It's one way to do it. You can also use a complementary color. I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. And that's still not quite black. It may not show up on the camera very well, but if I were to add a drop of white onto that, you would be able to see that it is not, in fact, a pure black. It's sort of a plummy kind of gray color. Okay, now let's move on to the cyan. I've said it right. Let's produce some tones of the cyan. And this is an amazing color. This is kind of like a, I'd say out of the two, the closest you'd get to that would probably be like a cobalt. A little bit more white. And let me just get some more white again. These colors are so strong, it doesn't take much to alter them. You need quite a bit of white to have any significant impact. And very little dark, so just keep that in mind. Now if you're doing, let me see, this is, yes, this is titanium white, so that's pretty much the white with the most pigment that you're going to get. It's just because this primary cyan is such a strong color, I'm having trouble getting the lighter tones. And maybe I'm just being too cheap with the white. Don't be cheap with paint. It's not going to serve you well. And then again, very quickly with the black, I'm just going to grab some of this onto the same brush. Now I've got a gray here because I've mixed black and white and blue. That's a beautiful chromatic gray. So let's try a bit of black, the blue. And again, it's going to get dark very quickly because the black is so strong. Just a dab of black to your hue to get the shades, and it's hard to get that transition bit. Back in with a bit of white and cheat and make a gray in there. And look at that gray, look at that color, that beautiful blue color. It's sort of a slate blue. You get some really surprising, I didn't expect that. You get some really surprising results sometimes when you're mixing color, and all you can do is play. You've just got to take the chance, mix some colors, plays. It's not a waste. This is kind of like, I can use this for cool collage papers or whatever. There's no waste here. Okay, so last but not least, we've got our primary yellow. There's so many paintbrushes on the go. I'm not going to know what in the world is going on. Look at that. Look how bright it is and luminous when you start adding a bit of white to it. Wow, that's glowing. Really, really pretty yellow. It's a little bit transparent, but I hope it does show up on camera. Now here's the fun one, really fun one. I love doing this. Yellow and black. Now it's not something that you think of, and I'm going to wipe off most of the black because it takes so little to tint the yellow. I've got way too much. We're going to start getting some really interesting greens. I've got, again, with so much black. Let me see. That one. So much for my perfect transition from light to dark, huh? When you're mixing colors, start with a very, very small amount of the black because it's just going to go so quickly. So you can get these cool greens out of that. Now I haven't mixed any of the primary colors together. All I've done is the tones of with white and black for the shades with the primary colors. So you can see the range that you've got there already without even mixing any of the primary colors. So let's move on and see what we can get when we mix. I'm going to do the more obvious one first. I'm going to do red and yellow, magenta and yellow. I'll get it right eventually. So here's some magenta, and here's some pure yellow. And let's start mixing these. I'm going to use the yellow brush because that red's just going to overtake it completely. Actually, let me clean this. Wipe that off. So I've got a fresh brush to work with. Okay. So now I want just a dab of red, and I mean like a dab, like look at my brush, there's nothing on there. And I'm going to mix it into the yellow, and boom, I've got this amazing orange color. Look at that. That is beautiful color. Now if I just play and say take a little bit of white and put with that, you're going to start getting paler and paler, obviously because of the white. But you can see where this can go quite nicely. Conversely, take a little bit of black and darken that down. And I've just added black to red and yellow and white. Look at that gray. Oh, that's awesome. That's an awesome, awesome gray color. Put a bit more yellow in there. Green. So green. Now there's red in here. So that green is not a very, so you can see I've just picked some up actually. That green is not a very saturated green, but it is a green that you would find in nature. It's something that you would find in a leaf. Beautiful, beautiful shade of green. Okay, so what am I going to do next? I'm going to take that green and I'm going to put a little bit of this pale blue in there and see what happens. Oh wow, look at that. Look, there's another awesome green. That one, I like that one a lot. I like it. Wow. Oh, look, now we're getting sort of aqua. Remember, I've still got a bit of red paint in here, so all of these colors are going together because I'm mixing, I'm harmonizing, and I'm mixing a little bit of each color into every other one. And all you can do is just keep mixing your colors and playing and experimenting. Look at that. That's beautiful. We're getting into a nice sort of a turquoisey kind of color now. I'm going to go back and get some more yellow, see what happens. Throw that in. Ooh. We've got almost a lime color happening here now. What happens if I take some white? Beautiful. I don't actually like green, but you know, when you start doing this, you get to appreciate the myriad of colors that you can get. What happens if I put some red in that green? Oh, a lot of red. You know what I've got now? This beautiful sort of muted brown peachy kind of thing happening. Let's see. I'm going to take a little bit more, make it a little bit peachier with a bit more red. A little bit more yellow. Ooh, mustard, anyone? So you can see the number of colors that you can make from just the three. That's an awesome color. I like that color very much. Just the three primary colors. You can make such a range. You never would imagine it because people just generally don't think this way. Look at this blue-green. It's kind of in here. Yep. So here we go. I've just proven something. So you might say, well, you're mixing up these colors, but how do you remember exactly what proportions? And the answer is you don't. You don't have to. Just put the paints on your palette. Think, okay, so say I want this to actually match that color, and think, well, look, it's pretty close. The hue is right. It's just that the shade, the tone is wrong. So it needs to have some more white. So you go into your white, and I've gone too far. But you can just lighten it. All I've done is just add some white to this one, and I've got this beautiful color here, which is pretty, not very close to that at all. I think, though, if I took a little bit of red and put it in there. Nope, that's not working. A little bit of blue. You just got to keep working at it. Some of the yellow. There we go. There we go. I put a little bit of everything, and I'm back to this. So it just takes a lot of playing. I want to see what happens when I put white with this one. Experimenting with your colors. Don't be afraid to waste paint. The only wasted paint is in the tube. I really believe that. It's just such a shame to see people not do this. Look at that mauve. That's beautiful. Not do this and experiment and see what happens when you mix things. When you mix just these primary colors. We can get into some more complicated ones later. But this, honestly, look at this palette. And then if you want a pop of color against any of these colors you can put on here. For a pop of color against your nice, you've got a nice sort of really subtle neutral palette going. Let's just say you want this to be seen. That yellow's there. Boom. And it's there. And it looks okay with these because every one of these colors has a little bit of yellow in it. Okay, so that's color mixing. The first episode, and we've used primary yellow, I'm going to get the names right, primary cyan, and primary magenta with a little bit of black and white so that we could get some tones and shades.